All right, so sodium chloride is 2 moles of sodium chloride produced from 2 moles of sodium, and so 5.2 moles is the change on both of those. All right, then if I end with 0, my change was minus 5.2, then I would have used 5.2 moles of the sodium to react with 2.6 moles of the chlorine. Okay, so let's look at another example. All right, now this one, it's the same reaction, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite our reaction down here. And this time it's asking for grams of chlorine to react with 5 moles of sodium. Okay, so BCA. All right, we have 5 moles here. All right, but before I get started on that, one of the things that it's helpful to do is anytime you're given something in grams or you're converting, you want to end up in grams for your answer, it's very useful to go ahead, you know you're going to need that molar mass. So we're going to go ahead and calculate that up front. And what that does is it makes that value ready for you when you're ready to use it. And you don't have to break your train of thought in the middle of solving a problem to stop and calculate a molar mass. All right, and again, remember, we want to develop very efficient processes for the AP Chem exam. And so this will, again, end up being a time saver for you because anytime you have to break your train of thought, it takes you a little bit to get back into what you were doing before you stopped to do this other task. So chlorine, 2 times the molar mass of chlorine is going to be about 71 grams per mole. And so I'm going to write that, and I usually just put these in parentheses. All right, so that way I know it's a molar mass. So here we have, and I'm going to change colors here to set off what's going in the table. So my zeros go first, 0 on the product, 0, 0 on my reactants. And again, I just did that because I want to be where I'm doing the same exact thing every time, even though in this case, they're not asking me about sodium chloride. So really putting that 0 there is the only thing I'm going to do in this case. I'm not going to fill out the whole table unless there's a reason for me to fill out the whole table. So here I have 5 moles of sodium, all right, which means my change was minus 5, all right. So if my change in the sodium was minus 5 and I have 2 times the amount of sodium as I do chlorine, this is the rate at which I'm using them. So that means if I used 5 moles of sodium, then I only used 2.5 moles of chlorine. And again, that comes from that ratio like what I did up above when I wrote it out separate. But when it's something really simple like a 2-to-1, you should be able to recognize that it's a simple ratio and to just kind of in your head figure out what those are without writing the ratio out. And so if that means I would have started with 2.5 moles. Okay, remember this is moles. And then at this point, here I have this nice, there's where my answer needs to be headed is the chlorine, but it wanted the answer in grams. And so usually what I'll do is I'll just take a little arrow coming out of my table, and then I will put that I'm going to multiply that by its molar mass. Again, just to indicate to the reader who's looking at my work that that's how I'm going to get this next number. So 2.5 moles times 71 grams per mole is going to give me 177.5, and that would be my grams of chlorine. All right. Now, let's take a look at this one. All right, so this one is going to have some ratios in it that maybe aren't so easy. But again, on this one, even though I will not need to fill out the whole table, I'm going to go ahead and fill it out just to kind of step you through one more example of how these work. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the equation, just to kind of spread it out a little bit for our purposes. Okay, it wants grams of iodine, and again, right away, I know I'm going to need that molar mass. So I'm going to go ahead Iodine is about 127 grams per mole, so 2 of them would be around 254 grams per mole. So I'm going to go ahead and just get that in there. Now it's right ready when I need to use it. Okay, BCA, put in my zeros, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and it's given that I have 0.5 moles of aluminum. All right, and so now my change in the aluminum is minus 0.5. So now let's go over and how are we going to get the change? It's a 2 to 3 ratio. So again, I'm going to go over here, and so 3 iodines to 2 aluminum. And I know it's really tempting to just go 3 over 2 equals, but you want to just take that half a second to write the component, to write the iodine, to write the aluminum next to it, because in a test situation, having that in front of you is going to keep you from writing the wrong number in the wrong place, okay? So I know this side has to be iodine over aluminum. Again, right there, it becomes clear to me what needs to go where. So 0.5 on the aluminum, and my question mark is there at the iodine. So solving that, 3 times 0.5 divided by 2. So I have 0.75. So my question mark is going to be 0.75. That's moles of iodine. And again, what comes out of this ratio when you do those is what is going to go up there in that table. Okay, so minus 0.75 is going to be what I calculated from there, all right, which means I would have started with 0.75 moles, okay, and it wants the answer in grams. So again, I'm just going to take and circle this, do a little arrow, times 254 grams per mole, and that's going to give me 190.5 grams of iodine, which is that's the answer that they wanted right there. Okay, now let's just take a second and look at how easy it would be if they had also asked me, say, a question about the aluminum iodide. All right, so now I'm looking at the aluminum iodide. Again, you're going to start with that change line because that's what you have the information about how those values relate to each other. And note that the aluminum and the aluminum iodide have the same coefficient, which means that the magnitude of the change is going to be the same. So it's a product, so it'll be plus. So there's my 0.5. So then if they had asked me a question about the aluminum iodide, I would have the moles right there. If I needed to convert it to grams, I could do that.